some things. We spend any time in Christendom, that things that come out. We love to hear about Jeremiah's calling in that first chapter. We love to hear how he said, the Lord said unto me, boy, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified and ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. When we look at the background of Jeremiah, we know that he is called during a time of reformation. Josiah, king of Judah, is leading a reformation. They found some of the old books, and they are trying to line up with God. But we also know that within the width and breadth of his, I still ran out, y'all? All right. That's all right. No. All right. Bless your heart. All right. We also know that during his time, he also was in Judah during the time of when the northern kingdom was captured in approximately 606 BC, and then the southern kingdom in 586 BC. We know that he was there during that time. And it's so interesting that while he has to give that bad information, he's also there to see it carried out. And we know that Jeremiah is known as the weeping prophet. But one of the areas that we get into a lot of time, particularly as preachers, is this 20th chapter of Jeremiah. And we hear those words that Jeremiah utters when he declares, when he says to them, I'm not going to preach anymore in that name. You know, and every now and then I wonder what would make a man do that. What really leads to that? You got some base information in around verse 7 through 9, but I want to better understand that. And like I was sharing with you all, when we look, when I look at these texts, I've looked at them, I've studied them, I've preached them, but I've never looked at them from this angle. So this is always interesting to me. So what I want to do tonight is look at Jeremiah. I want to first of all look at what are some of the lead causes to his bout with depression. I have there the depressive bouts. And so what I want to do, first of all, I want to get a volunteer. Matter of fact, Sister Tracy, is it? No, it ain't time yet. It ain't quite time yet. Continue to go on, set up. All right. But what I want to do is I want to go to Jeremiah, the 20th chapter, and rather than jumping in at verse 7, I want to go back up to verse 1. Oh, all right, sis. Jeremiah 20 and 1. Why I'm in the New Testament. We can kind of look at this together then. Look at verse 1. There you will see the words. Now Pashur, the son of Emer, the priest, who was also chief governor in the house of the Lord, heard that Jeremiah prophesied these things. Verse 2. Then Pashur smote Jeremiah, the prophet, and put him in the stocks that were in the high gate of Benjamin, which was by the house of the Lord. Verse 3. And it came to pass on the morrow that Pashur brought forth Jeremiah out of the stocks. Then said Jeremiah unto him, the Lord had not called thy name Pashur. Now I'm going to try this, y'all. Magor-Missabib. All right? Till I go study some more, I'm going to get some more out of that. He says, for thus saith the Lord, behold, I will make thee a terror to thyself and to all thy friends, and they shall fall by the sword of their enemies, and thine eyes shall behold it. And I will give all Judah into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall carry them captive into Babylon, and shall slay them with the sword. Verse 5, moreover, I will deliver all the strength of this city, and all the laborers of this city, and all the precious things thereof, and all the treasures of the kings of Judah will I give into the hand of their enemies, which shall spoil them, and take them and carry them to Babylon. Let's stop right there. Now, so then, in those verses, in particularly 1 through 4, I think it is, might be 3, but particularly, what do you see as some of the causes to Jeremiah's situation? Why would we be depressed if that happened to us? Pastor? All right. Simplify that for me. Simplify those two for me. What he did? What does that mean? How you did it? Huh? I'm looking for a word. There's some stuff going on right now they're talking about from last year. How do you smote a person? Right. Hey, say it again. Ah. All right. He slapped him. I'm trying to get y'all a little angry for Jeremiah. He slapped him. Now, and then and he slapped him because in the previous chapter Jeremiah was prophesying. So now what happens when I suffer doing it? Okay? And all I'm saying is, you know, we discovered in the study with Elisha, first of all and foremost, it can happen to anyone. That rule still applies here with Jeremiah. But specifically, more to the point, the fact that he slapped him because of what he did. And what he did is what God told him to do. So I bring the question to you again. What happens when we get in trouble for serving God? When God, we are where we are because God put us. Okay? So he didn't just hit it. He can't handle it if you hit it. But it's a struggle. Now I'm going to give a little funny and then I'm going to move on. Right? So here within, the last week or so, Chris Rock had did his stand-up. And a little piece commercial I caught, they say somebody asked him, did it hurt? And Chris Rock said, it still hurts. While we laugh, the reality is sometimes our hurts are not just momentary. Okay? Hit on a deeper level. Stay with us longer than we want them to stay with us. Right? And then even when we go and talk to somebody, oh, you ought to be over that. Sometimes you want to say that about your hurt. Don't say that about mine. Mine is real. With me? Yeah. That was the thing with all of that. I was one of the most interesting, and I think he had it. Let me be honest. Shannon Sharp was on Skip Bailey, and he said, "Skip, I'm gonna tell you the truth." He said, "You got to understand something. There's some things you don't do in black culture. Sure enough, don't play." He was dead on. He said, "Now, Chris was good. He said, but if it would have been me, whatever that Versace, whatever coat I was been on, it'd have been on and it wouldn't have went back the same way it came. Because it'd have been on and cracking. And he said, matter of fact, and every time I see him, on spot is going down. And all I'm trying to say to you, I'm not trying to justify, but I'm just trying to Then what else did they do? Stop. So what is that? Simplify that. Put him in jail. There you go. Now we're talking. All right. Now we are. There was a man who was let out of jail. I think he spent something like 30 years, because they say he was the getaway driver in an armed robbery. The man was given 400 years. And I'm trying to say it happened in Florida. Y'all put the rest together for yourself. But I'm trying to figure out how you get 400 years. So we got to keep that in mind. Sister Tracy, I'm going to try to stay with the mic as much as I can. I'm sorry, I got carried away. I put it down and just walked away from it. So they slapped him, okay, put him in jail. All right, what else y'all got? Anything else y'all see in the text? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree with you, but I got a question. When you look at just saw it. Look at verse 3 for a minute. It says, and it came to pass on the morrow that Pasha brought forth Jeremiah out of the stocks. So how long was he there? One night. Exactly. Okay, now, my question comes, how do you get that angry that you're ready to quit on God after spending one night? Yeah. Huh? Say it one more time. Verse 4? Oh no, that's what he got for putting him in jail. God gave him a prophecy specifically for Pasha. Yeah. Yeah. But I gotta take that back because I'm thinking I just saw something. Yeah. Oh. So we still back on the slap, right? Because I can't let that go that quick, right? Okay? Yeah. Okay. All right. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. And sometimes it was something else. Yeah. Yeah. Wait on. I got you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, remember, they were they were having issues with Babylon already. Now they were still some years away from where the southern kingdom was actually captured. Okay, but they were still already having issues, so sometimes they couldn't do what they normally would. So they put him in there, but it was still a demoralizing kind of situation. Now, can I do something right here? Go ahead on, bro. Or to let it go. You slapped me. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. Go ahead on. No, well, no. Initially, I just put it out there general. I hadn't even dealt with the Lord yet. Just in a general perspective, because there are times when things can happen like that all of a sudden. Okay, and it can cause us some stress. It can cause us to become, if you want to say, depressed or saddened or whatever level you're at that time. It can happen to any of us. That's the first point that we need to understand. Again, it can happen to any of us. Some things, seem like it's not as bad as what happened before. I've been through worse. But for some reason, this time, okay? All right. So then now let me come to God, and that's where I want to come to that verse 4, because God let him get slapped, God let him get put in prison, right? And then God come back the next day, not prophesy. You know, and you start to hear the words of, I'm sorry, go ahead. Sure. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and when you really get into it, it's not even the beginning. Because remember, it was chapter 18 where he had to go to the potter's house. Jeremiah was known as the weeping prophet. Now, but weeping doesn't mean weakness. It does not mean weakness. Okay? But things can happen, things can go on, things can catch you on the blind side. You with me? And now, and just to miss the way that it grabs you, it grips you, okay? It can throw you into that place. Okay? It can happen to any of us. So he is, he's been jailed, he's been slapped, he's been jailed. You know, how you slap me and I'm the one go to jail. Okay? Now you got to still get up and do his job. And y'all there, what we don't often appreciate about each other is what it takes for you to be able to do what you do. What you have to overcome to do what you do. Those personal struggles. I'm not talking about sin or what have you. I'm just talking about struggles. Sometimes I got to overcome some stuff just to do what God called us to do. I see a hand. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. Sure. Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Agreed. Agreed. All right. Let's take a little further then. Okay. Get out of school and find me a job in Alabama. Okay. They made me a first line supervisor. Okay. And but what they didn't tell me that in 1988, at that plant, I'd be the first black to hold a supervisory position. I didn't say regional manager. I didn't say CEO. I said first line supervisor. Okay. My boss said to me, Joe, I wish I had time to take you around and show you what you need to know in this, that, and the other. But if you have any questions, feel free to call me. Right? So here I am. I don't know nothing. I'm fresh out of school. Okay? I don't know. I don't even know the questions to ask. Right? So I'm hitting these roadblocks because I don't know. All right? And then 6 months later, I'm frustrated. I want to quit. But then they say, you're the first one, but if you quit, every time they look at another black person, they're going to say, we had one, but he couldn't handle the pressure. So you're stuck. Okay? Every time I want to react, I can't react because if I react, I'm acting like a black person. And I don't have no self-control. Okay? I had some friends who would sometime, if I told them, I said, look, if y'all don't get me out of here, I'm gonna go off on somebody. They would take me to lunch and they would let me vent just so I could finish the day. Then they say, why you always hanging around them? So I stopped hanging around them. I ain't know no better. Okay? So you're constantly walking around with pressure. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, right. And 6 months into the job, they hired another supervisor who had experience. And I saw my boss walk him over and say, this is work in process. This is the stuff in staging until we get an order to fill so that we can make up the parts and the whole 9 yards, taking him into the production office and showing him what the paperwork, how you do the paperwork at that plant. Everything that should have happened for me. You with me? Okay? They were making time to do that. Now, sure he was. So and so you're carrying that. Now, it ain't till later you find out that just like they have their plans, the Lord has his plans. And you got to hang in there long enough for God to execute. his plans. But at every level, that would happen. And God would turn around. And he would always deliver. I mean, one boss walked up on me one day and said, "Did you get this report?" I said, "What report? You need to get that report. Why you didn't get it?" It's like 5 after 8 in the morning. Just got to work. My boss. I said, "You never asked me for that. You need to go to your office right now and get that together." And then he said, I'm going up here to a meeting. I'm going to a meeting. And I'll come see you when I get finished with that meeting. He didn't know he was going to a meeting to get fired. And I started, you start finding out. You start finding some stuff out that God really does have the last word in things. But while you don't know, it's stressful. Okay? Now, I thought, I'm like, why I got to go through this? Until I started running into some of our young people. And they were going through the same thing. And now you can have a conversation. So some of the stuff we go through is because God is giving us experience so that we can help others who are coming behind us. But when I'm in that moment, do I realize it like that? No. So this stuff can hit you on the blind side. And y'all, can I be honest for a minute? I didn't always pass the test. Okay? We get frustrated. And just like sometimes we go to people and say, it's going to be all right. Don't let that bother you like that. It's going to be all right. Every now and then we need somebody to come and tell us the same thing. Yeah. Oh, yes, ma'am. Without a doubt. So he's been slapped. He spent a night in jail, and now he's back, and now he's got to step back up and continue to do what he's been doing and do the very thing that got him in trouble in the first place. Okay? So now it's building. So the point I'm trying to make here is that, and I just kind of put it here, there are times when what makes us feel sad, depressed, or saddened, okay, is cumulative. It's the key word I want. It's cumulative. It's not just one thing, it's multiple things that go on in our lives. Okay? Sometimes it is that one thing that just blows us away. But sometimes it's cumulative. Jesus said to Peter, "Behold, Satan has desired to have you that he might sift you as wheat." Some stuff is a gradual breakdown. It's gradual. So we need it, and it can happen to any of us. So when he goes through this, okay, because the reality is, at any time, and this is what we have to respect about each other, while I'm trying to live a life that's pleasing in God's sight, if you push me the wrong way, you can get a human response. Stop laughing at me, Sherilyn. Right? So there are times when our kindness is really a defense mechanism, because we're really trying not to get out and get carried away. Okay? Why? Because when we get out there, now we can't control it. So now, meet me in verse 6. I'm sorry. No. Verse 7. Verse 7. This is the part we normally deal with. Okay? O Lord, thou hast deceived me, and I was deceived. Thou art stronger than I, and hast prevailed. I am in derision daily. Everyone mocketh me. Let's go to verse 8. For since I spake, I cried out. I cried violence and spoil, because the word of the Lord was made a reproach unto me and a derision daily. Let's go back to verse 7. Let's go back to verse 7. Okay? What happened to him? What is he saying? Well, what's the first thing he said? All right. Now that word deceived. What does he mean? Huh? All right. And when what he's saying, you fooled me. You fooled me. And here's why he's saying that. Remember, when he accepts his call, it's doing lost my word. There's a reformation going on. Okay, they had found those old scrolls, and Josiah is trying to reform the country. He's trying to reform the northern kingdom. It was a great time to come into ministry, because the king is saying, we got to get right with God. It's a great time. Okay? So now he's come a long way from that. Okay? Because after Josiah, things kind of go back to the way they used to be. See the point? So he's saying, you deceived me. You set me up. You brought me into this thing, and it was great to be in ministry. Now it's a struggle. When he started out, nobody was going to slap him for giving a prophecy. They were looking for the word. People were hungry for the word. So he said, you've deceived me. You've deceived me. Okay? He says, thou art stronger than I and hast prevailed. Okay? Now he goes on, he says, and here comes one of my other problems. I am in derision daily. Everyone mocketh me. Everyone mocks me. The people are making fun of me. I'm being ridiculed. Okay? For doing what thus saith the Lord. Okay? Sometimes you can be mocked for having integrity. Sometimes you can get mocked because you don't do everything you used to do. People will do that because you remind them of what they ought to be doing. Paul calls it the offense of the cross. Okay? You just trying to do the best you can, trying to render unto the Lord all of his benefits towards you, and somebody look at you, you think you all that. You ain't all that. I remember you. You wasn't all that. And you ain't all that now. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. One of my instructors said to me, he went into his old neighborhood, went to a funeral, and they were sitting at the repast, and a lady looked at him and she said, I remember you. Boy, you were nothing nice. And my instructor in kind gave back to her, I remember you too. And the lady walked away. And again, let me say now, I'm not suggesting that as a course of action, but it takes something to be able to stand in the midst of all of that. And it deals with us. And sometimes, y'all, it can catch us on the blind side. And it can mess us up. It happens to the best of us. Okay? And one of the worst things we can do is pretend it can't happen to us. Because we set ourselves up. Because we think it can't happen to us. Okay? When you read some of what Jeremiah has to say, when you read Job's account and all of that, there's a time when you know Job gets just depressed, to the point that he just he regrets not just his birth, he regrets his conception. When egg met seed, he's regretting that ever happened. And looking at this 20th chapter, you read on down past that, you think you were in Job. Because the language is similar, very similar. Okay? And so depression can drive us in that, even Christians. And so the reason why do we go from Elisha to a Jeremiah? It's because if it can happen to them, it can happen to us. Yeah. Okay? Now bring that to today's time, since you brought that up. Bring that to today's time. One of the sayings is, there's no hurt like a church hurt. So we got to be careful. Got to be careful how we handle each other. Love y'all my people, but the truth of the matter is, I don't know what all you went through before you got here. So I cannot assume that I can drop something on you just assuming you can handle it. Okay? We are we used to study strength of materials. And certain metals, they are very strong. If you just put a load on them, they can hold it. But if you hit it, the shock of the hit will cause it to literally start cracking. Okay? I remember being on the UAP Long. This was before they widened it. And there was some traffic on there. And y'all didn't tell me that when you're on them bridges shake. And so I'm sitting there, the traffic can come to a complete stop. I didn't even put on my emergency brake. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there and I'm just noticing, wait a minute, I ain't never noticed that before. Why this thing shaking now when I can't get off? Why is this happening, right? But the reality is that the bridge is designed to give a little so it doesn't crumble. Okay? And sometimes, y'all, God sends us through some stuff so that we can take the shock when it happens. Am I making any sense? Okay? But Jeremiah had one of them moments, because when you read this thing, he comes right out of the prophecy in verse 6 into verse 7 and says, "Oh Lord, now let me tell you something. You fooled me. Okay? You said come to Jesus and everything was going to be all right. You fooled me. And not only isn't it all right, but now people are making fun of me. They're ridiculing me. Okay? So now I'm crying out. Because the word of the Lord, and what you catch in the end of that verse 8 is the fact that I'm getting ridiculed for doing the very thing you called me to do. Now, if that don't catch you, let me help you a little bit more. Okay? Because most of us have fallen prey to this. Ever since I've been following, it wasn't until I started following the Lord that looked like all hell broke loose. I'm trying to do the right thing. And every time I come around that corner, here comes something else. Okay? But when we understand how these things happen, it helps us to deal with them a little better. When we recognize we're not the only ones, it helps us. And I'm not saying we get there all in one shot. No, it doesn't happen like that. But every now and then it's good to be able to understand and to rehearse, to review the fact that things can catch us on the blind side. Because now, what I couldn't take, I find it a little bit more bearable. I'm not the only one. I ain't the first. I'm not going to be the last. Okay? But God is helping me to deal with it. And that's why we have a study like this. Why? Because it can happen to any of us. It can happen to any of us. There are symptoms to our depression. There are symptoms to our reaction to it. Okay? It can happen to any of us. Okay? You deceived me. Okay? Because the way this started out is not the way it is right now. Okay? All right? And then now, the very people that I'm called on to speak to are the very ones that are making mockery of me. Not to make mention that I just spent a night in jail. You can almost hear Jeremiah. God, you saw that man slap me in my face? It's real. It's real. It's real. Okay? So then as we we just being able to pull out, look, and in my Bible, verse 7 and through the next page. But anyway, this section carries the label Jeremiah's complaint. Now you got to give him credit for one thing. Where did he take his complaint? Okay? To God. That's where we have to take it. We've got to learn how to unload and give it to God. Because if not, then what I do is I come to the altar with my problem. And if I'm not careful, I'm going to leave the altar with my problem. I need God to help me to unload, to let it go. Okay? Now, y'all, please hear me. Okay? Some stuff is a little easier to let go than other things. Okay? And it's not the same way for everybody. Okay? The thing I've learned is that your issue is real to you. Just like mine is to me. Okay? And so if you ever get an opportunity, if you ever end up sitting down and talking to somebody about their problem, understand that while their issue might not be an issue for you, it is for them. And you need to respect the fact that their issue is real to them. Know and understand that they are honoring you just by talking to you. But what they did not come for is for you to make light of their situation. Okay? We have to keep that in mind. So now, as I done run out of time, so I need to be able to look at that. Need to be able to understand. Look, the causes of how I got here are multifaceted. Okay, if I'm not careful, my reaction can also be multifaceted. Okay, why? Because most times, if I'm not careful, I'm blowing up. In other words, it's just coming out. It's coming out. I've held it in and held it in, and now it's just coming out. And look, for all of us, there comes a time when before you can really counsel or talk to somebody, you got to let them unload. You got to bleed that pressure off. So we have to practice being good listeners. You prayerfully listen. You're asking God, Lord, show me what I need to see. Help me to understand what's going on with them, but also help me to understand how you want me to respond. Okay? So even sometimes when we're preaching, we're asking God, Lord, show me what to say. Show me what you want me to preach. I need some insight. And it's not until y'all come up here afterwards or have a conversation afterwards that you really begin to understand some of the complexities of why it was necessary to deal with that. That happens in the sermon, that can happen in the devotion, the scripture reading, it can happen in the prayer, okay? And so remember, this is the hospital. I don't care how dressed up we are on Sunday, this is the hospital. We are under construction. Pastor Cotton had a sign over his church, and he's going to make sure he put it back at the new one. And said, it simply said, it was in the vestibule, and it said, you are under construction. Why? Because all of us got issues. No big eyes, no little U's, all of us. Elisha and Jeremiah can have issues. Guess what? We got issues. We need help. We need God to breathe on us. Okay? Say this, I'm going to try to finish. I was ripping and running at work some years ago, and I studied the text, but I didn't see, Reverend Davis, how God wanted me to deal with it. And it didn't really break loose until about 5:30 that evening. We were on the service was 7:30 that night. Y'all pray for me. I broke a couple of speed rules on my way in. I think that night I jumped on the HOV and I was the only one in the car. Got here, and when I got here, Pastor Tross had gotten up. And everybody in the pulpit knows when he get up, he's on his way to the office to go get a sermon. Right? I come around the corner. He's about to walk to the stairs. I'm coming to the stairs. I'm breathing hard because I've been running. And I sit down. And then he looks at me after the choir finished singing, and he did this. I said, oh, Lord, he's not going to let me preach tonight. He got up. He said, choir, I've really enjoyed the song you sung, nothing wrong with it, but I'm going to ask you to give another verse of another song. I'm going to give Brother Joseph a chance to catch his breath. The choir started this song, and the person that was leading it just went to the ground and just said, I just can't do this no more. And I'm sitting there when that happened, I'm sitting there. Oh, please just hold it together long enough for me because I see now why I need to preach this message. Okay? So you got to understand, we are under construction. We got to be careful when we get here. Because now it matters how I treat you. It matters what I say to you. It matters. This is one of the few places you come and somebody just say to you, you've been on my mind. I'm so glad to see you today. How you been doing? Turn your whole world around. You see the point? And we've got to understand that. Because God is using us as his hands extended to help somebody else. Am I making any sense? Is this anything near like what we deal with? Okay? I don't want to just tell a story. I want to make an impact. Okay? Now, your homework assignment, should you choose to accept it, is just to read through, take your time and read through the chapter. I was going to say verse 10 through the end of the chapter, but just read the chapter. Let it get in your spirit a little bit. We're going to come back again. Because we need to see how he further reacts to this situation. But we also need to see what God has to say. What we learned with Elisha was the fact that with Elijah, we found out nothing, we needed to get to verse 15. Because verse 15 was where God spoke. And a lot of times, y'all, we leave before God speaks. We got to get in the habit. Lord, I'm going to wait on you. I know it's going to be worth it. I'm going to wait on you. I know what I want. I know what I see. But I'm going to wait on you to see what you got to say about it. Okay? I'm going to hang in there. Okay? Amen. With that, I'm going to ask that we would stand and we're going to close out. Father in heaven, we come now this day. We thank you. Thank you for allowing us just to slow down a little bit and just see what's really going on in the text. Father, help us to see ourselves in what Jeremiah went through. Help us to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that no matter what has gone on, it's not over until you say it's over. Help us to remember that you have the final word in all matters. And then, Father, help us to wait on you. Lord, when our circumstances suggest that we need to act, when our tolerance level is moving in a way other than what your will is for our lives, help us to wait on you. Then, Father, move in our hearts and our minds and in our lives, that we might see afresh the value in serving a true and a living God. Father, I pray for these thy people. Give us all traveling grace. Let us get home safe and without harm. And Father, we'll be forever grateful. We'll forever honor your name. In the precious name of Jesus, we ask it all. Amen and thank God.